Conti, bella palla per Rebic, Ibra, Rebic, il tiro, goal!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher. You can find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher, joined by Madison.
Yeah, our first week of summer with the team. Kind of weird not having a game this week. I normally have, hope my boss is not watching this, a training on Wednesday afternoons. I have the game up on the TV in the background. And this week, the training seemed a little bit more long because I didn't have the game up.
Yeah.
But I hope you guys liked the new intro. We heard you on YouTube and we got it up.
Yeah. And another thing, someone said stop reading out your Twitter handles at the start, which I thought was quite funny because I've only just realised that it's become a force of habit to say follow us on Twitter, whatever. We'll work on that. What I want to get is them slidey up things that give our Twitter handle as we intro. That would be cool. So we'll work on that a lot. We'll try to bring some positive changes to the podcast this summer, like good guests, better animations, all that kind of stuff.
$1 million giveaways.
we will give away the new shirt at some point as well. I will throw that out there. But yeah, just look out for details on that. It might be a Twitter thing, since that seems to get good traction. But anyway, yeah, Madison_DT is Maddie's Twitter since he forgot to plug it. And another first was kind of like two. I mean, I know it's not the first podcast that
I was listening to them because they don't want our Twitter handles. They don't follow me anyway.
Need to get you to 1K. Yeah, it's like first time in a while that me and you have done one. Anthony can't be with us for this one, but he'll be back for the next one. And also, people have probably realised this is the first time ever that we've recorded and it's been daylight for me. We're recording at like 5 p.m. UK time. Obviously a bit later than what we normally do, but it's the height of summer here, so the sun's out and everything's good. And we've got a win to recap, which is the most important thing, obviously. Final game of the season, Saturday night at San Siro. It kind of got moved last minute from Sunday afternoon to Saturday night, which was an interesting one, but it didn't ruin the weekend, which is good because I think it's always difficult, because we went into this game and we already had sixth place tied up. And I was thinking the players might find it quite hard to get up for this. They're already thinking about their holidays and about having a shorter pre-season and about not getting injured because a 1 month long injury all of a sudden means that a player might miss the start of next season. There's all that stuff going on in the back of your head. And Cagliari, not a terrible team. We forgot to preview the game last week, so that was amateur of us. But I'd have probably predicted us to concede, just because concentration will have been a bit lower and all that kind of stuff. But we didn't. We won 3-0. It was a very professional performance, to close the season in that way, to score 3 times, and most importantly, to keep a clean sheet, I think was very important. If we'd have lost that game somehow, and our unbeaten run ends in that last game of the season, it sends you into the summer on a negative note. But it's the flip side. We ended the season in the perfect way. Everybody's still excited, and now it's like, right, let's get these additions in, and next season can't come soon enough. I've already forgotten who scored. Zlatan scored the second.
Yep.
That was
I thought he scored the first too.
Shot. No, that was Castillejo scored the third, didn't he?
I already told you about my Saturday.
Yeah, true. The first one was an own goal. It was the one where Leao took it round the right back, and it ended up hitting off Rania Klavan and went into the back of the net as an own goal. But really, that was all Leao's work. Leao was actually really, really good. I
remember the first half, and he looked pretty impressive. After that, I gave up.
Yeah, I've said it so many times on here. He's an edge of the seat player. Whenever he picks the ball up, you sort of expect something to happen because he's one of the only players that we have. They're all on the left side, funnily enough. Rebic and Teo and obviously Leao, who are willing to take on the defender and try and beat them for pace. And they run to goal whatever way that they possibly can. We've seen that goal from Leao against Fiorentina, which I think a few of us picked in our writers' piece. Go check that out if you haven't. It's under the features section. We all, chipped in and did our best, worst players of the season, best moments, worst moments, that kind of thing. I think a few of us picked that as the best goal, that individual goal against Fiorentina. And then he scored that goal against Juve, where again, he just ran towards goal, shot, went in. Very direct player, good dribbler. You know, he strikes me as somebody who could develop into something very serious. And it was good to see him get a start, because that's the one thing he has struggled for, his starts, because of the form of Rebic, and because you're not going to move Çalhanoğlu and Zlatan either, and he can't
Right.
play on the right as far as we know. So got to be patient, I suppose, with him. We spoke about him at length last week, and I think that performance against Cagliari won't have done him any harm. Other players that we need to mention really from that game, Gabia, very solid again. I think he's had his opportunity in the last 3 games of the season to partner up with someone experienced in Kier and just see how things go against 3 not as good opponents. Of course, there was Atalanta, but then...
But to be fair, all the players that we've played the second half of the season have all looked fairly good, except for Biglia. He's the only one who's done terrible.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
we even went into the Atalanta game with a really, really makeshift back four. You know, Laxalt at left back, and I think he put in a 6 out of 10 performance in that game. You know, everyone sort of understood their role, I think, and that's important. But Gabia in particular has impressed me. There's something there. There's something in him as a player that I like. There's definitely leadership qualities in him, because I always notice that he's not afraid to shout orders to the other defenders. But physically, I think he's bulked out a lot, and I think that makes a big difference. You know, if before he couldn't compete against the better centre forwards in the league, now he seems to be able to hold his own, and that's encouraging for us. The players that had a good, Kessie and Benestell, fantastic again. You know, we've it's an interesting paradox, really, is our season, because you could literally split it in half. And the first half of the season, I don't think anybody's scoring above a 6 out of 10 rating. And then the second half of the season, I don't think anybody's scoring below a 7. You know, maybe the fullbacks, maybe Calabria and Conti, but Calabria I'll pick out. I think the last 3 games of the season, he looked good. You know, out of him and Conti, it now looks like Conti should be the one who should be sold.
I feel like Conti should be sold. I've never felt that he shouldn't after his return. He's just not anything from what he's not the player that we bought 2 or 3 years ago.
Two bad knee injuries do that to someone. I understand that. His game was based so much on getting up and down the entire right side, because he was a wing back, getting up and down the entire right side as quickly as possible. Now perhaps body can't do that anymore, or he knows he's one more serious knee injury away from that potentially being it for him. And that's in the back of your mind, whereas Calabria is 22. No, he's 23. So there's still a bit of time, you would say, before he gets into his prime. Conti's currently going through his prime, and it's probably the lowest point of his career.
Right.
That's the worry. Now, it's harder to sell Conti for that very reason, and Calabria would get us pure capital gains because he's an academy graduate, he's a youth product of ours. But I always say that you keep the better player. You know, you keep the better player. It's as simple as that. And if we want depth going into next season, it's fairly obvious that we're going to sign a right back. So I think that means Kalulu probably starts the season in the Primavera, and then we maybe have Calabria or Conti as a backup to whoever comes in. We'll come on to targets and stuff later. We've got an idea for that. But yeah, it's an interesting one. We'll see. It looks like literally a couple of hours before we were recording, Calabria's officially changed his agent to some Spanish agency, and Sevilla are apparently the team that are pressing for him. That, you know, like Bonaventura, when it turns out that Atalanta, Roma, all these teams want him. If Sevilla want Calabria, should that worry us? Have they seen something? Are we going to regret this?
No, they wanted Suso.
That's a fair point. They're giving us a lot of gains, aren't they, Sevilla?
They are.
Great people, you know? If only they'd taken Andre Silva off us when they had him.
I know.
But I hope for Calabria's sake, if he is going to be sold, you know, he does go with best wishes and stuff like that. I hope he goes on to prove us wrong. I always want to see Milan Academy graduates go on and do well, you know, because I think it's a good
except
point.
It should be kind of a red flag when a Champions League qualifying team is after your players and you're not in the Champions League.
Yeah, I don't know who their current right back is. It could be that they're bringing him in as a backup, but change of scenery might do him good. You know, I suppose It happens. Locatelli wasn't getting an awful lot of game time. Yes, you could say we want him back, but at the time, I think it was probably the right call. And it might now be the right call for Calabria too. But I'd like him to stay. I think so let's say Calabria broke into the team around about 2017. At the same time, we signed Conte. I think we've seen more positive signs in the last 3 years from Calabria than we have from Conte. So that would be my basis for keeping Calabria around. But I think we'll probably be looking to sell both of them, to be totally honest. And we'll just see what happens, I suppose. What else have we got? Castillejo from the Cagliari game, in particular the second half that you don't remember because you were several whiskies deep. He was good. He was very good. Now, I think we've got an interesting situation on the right wing because you've got Salamakers, who we'll probably all admit isn't the best technically. He's not the most technically gifted footballer, you know? He's not necessarily as big a goal threat. I don't think he's going to provide you with as many goals, assists, key passes, all that kind of stuff. But he works really hard. He covers a lot of ground and is important for the balance of the team. If he didn't work as hard on that right side, the left side of Teo, Rebic, Çalhanoğlu, Ibra to an extent, wouldn't have the freedom that they do. It's important to have someone like that. But then we went to Castillejo and you realise, wow, for us to have that much threat in one team actually looks very good. It looks very encouraging. And Castillejo was good, I would say. He took his goal well. He spun around, bang, first time into the bottom corner. And just in general, I think it was a good performance from him. You can see, really, if you consider the three players that have started, the three S's that have started on the right for us this year, Suso, Salamakers and Castillejo, Samu.
I was like, Casillas not
Yeah,
best.
it was obscure with that. Suso's the one who's been the worst. So, we've got the two better ones now. And we will come on to transfer rumours because there are some. It doesn't seem like we're settled on that right side yet. So, yeah, that was it. Good way to end the season. New kit, out of 10.
I love it. 10.
I think it's amazing. It reminds me of the Scudetto shirt this was from the season after the away shirt, but the Scudetto.
Is that the collar with the AC Milan on it?
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
I like this one.
One of my favorites.
It's a medium. It doesn't quite fit me as well anymore, but I like this. And yeah, it was the one with the Scudetto winning season was the one with the thicker stripes. And I had like 2 red stripes, black stripe down the middle. So it's gone back to that. But I just love that Puma, and they've done this with all the shirts. I don't know if you've seen the Man City shirts. Well, all of them are like supposedly inspired by the city that the team is from.
Oh, yes.
So it's got like roadmap looking things on the Man City shirt, and obviously we've got the Galleria Vittoria, which is basically in the main plaza in Milan, and you look up at the roof and it's got that kind of pattern on it. I think it's just nice to have something that's a nod to the city that we play in.
Honestly, Puma does very well with their jerseys, I think.
Oh, they do, yeah.
They're like how Adidas used to be. They're like the new Adidas,
Yeah. They know how to keep things simple. That being said, I haven't seen many bad shirts come out this year. I mean, I look at Nike's Barcelona away shirt, that black and gold one, and I just think, wow, that's incredible, fair play. Then Nike have done some bad shirts for Inter.
Yeah, I mean, but
that Noughts and Crosses grid is very bad. So now we wait for the away shirt and the third shirt. I think the third shirt, if it is that what's it meant to be, teal or turquoisey colour, that would be nice. Something a bit different, a throwback to the 90s. So, yeah, we got that.
Sorry, buy one?
Yeah, I'm going to buy one. I'm waiting for the home shirt because apparently we're going to get a sleeve sponsor before next season.
Okay.
So I might wait until that starts because I'd rather have the proper one. I'm kind of a bit OCD about that kind of thing. I'd rather have the thing that's been worn rather than one that's missing something. So I'll do that, and I might get a number. It's Zlatan stays. I think I'll get his number.
I'm waiting for Donnarumma. I'm going to re-sign. I'm going to buy his kit. I've wanted his kit for a long time.
Have you seen the goalkeeper shirt that we wore? It's like the mint colour.
One? Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, get that. That's a great shout. And also those, if you get it with long sleeves, they double up as like a sweatshirt because they're quite thick.
Yeah, the long sleeve one's not out yet. I was
Am I right
hoping
in
that it
thinking they
was,
didn't
but
release a long sleeve one
they
last year?
didn't last year.
Yeah, and everyone kicked off about it. I hope they do this year. Hope they do this year. If not, them dodgy Chinese sites do. So you just buy one of them, $20 or whatever.
I'm kind of weird. I don't buy those fake jerseys.
I do. Well, I've bought a handful. I'm not gonna lie, for 5-a-side and stuff, because I don't like my authentic ones getting ripped to hell. So anyway, let's do something a bit more fun. Let's review the season player by player. I did this as like an article for the website. It's under features section, where I give every player a rating out of 10 for the season. Obviously, it's a tough one because first half most people were rubbish. Second half of the season people were good. You've got to try and find a medium between the two without having recency bias and all that kind of thing. So we'll go down, give a score, and a little comment on why, shall we? Right. So Donnarumma. Do you want me to start with what I gave and then?
I'm looking at what you gave.
Okay, yeah. So I gave him a 7. I think very good season overall. However, there were a couple of match costing mistakes in there. So that's why I couldn't give him any higher than that. But he's fantastic. He's just fantastic. Interestingly, and people might argue with this, I thought Donnarumma was better last season, which is why I'm gravitating towards giving him a 7 this season. So that's what I gave him.
No, definitely not. Unless did we start the season at Udinese or was that last year?
That's this year.
Okay. Shit, that seems like so long ago.
Last season, I just remember when we made that run towards the Champions League and obviously finished 1 point off, and we went on a good run of games under Gattuso. Donnarumma was a big part of that. He looked pretty unbeatable. This season, really good. Probably could have given him a 7.5, let's say, but yeah, just a couple of mistakes and spring to mind.
I think as a goalie this year, he looks more aware of his surroundings. He's more confident coming out of the box. Yeah. I give him an 8.
Yeah,
I think this is his best season that he's had.
Harsh, maybe. Anyway, so rest of the goalkeepers, Begovic, Reina, and Donnarumma, I didn't give a score to because we didn't really see enough of them. I think they all played under 150 minutes. Antonio Donnarumma, in theory, if he'd have played a bit more, would have got a 10 because he played that one game in the cup and kept a clean sheet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to. He's still not conceded a goal for us, Antonio Donnarumma, which is mental.
Give that man a 10.
Good, in my opinion. All right, so on to the defenders. Calabria, I gave a 5.5. Very, very up and down season. Could have been anywhere between a 4 and a 6, to be honest. I don't think he was ever absolutely horrendous like people thought he was up until Christmas. I just think we made our choice to go with Conte and stick with it to protect our investment to an extent. But he gets boosted a decent chunk because of the way that he ended the season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was part of that good run.
I think 5.5 is fair. I think I'm looking at him now. We'll touch on him, but you gave all the defenders a pretty fair score. First half of the season, our defense was just awful. I feel like we were not clicking. 5.5 is fair. He didn't have like a very good first half, but only because he wasn't starting from the first whistle, and so he might be a starter instead of a bench player. You know, it might be harder for him to come on in the middle of a game and kind of get in the zone.
The one game that people talk about was Roma away. We brought Calabria off the bench at Roma away, and yeah, he made a couple of errors in that game. I understand that, but I think the point is you've got to judge the entirety of the defence relative to each other, and every player in that list has made mistakes. Conte made mistakes. Romagnoli made mistakes. The only one who probably didn't make a high-profile mistake is the guy who I ended up essentially giving the player of the season to, and we'll come on to that. So yeah, Conte I gave a 4.5, just not there. You know, he did have a decent stretch of games where he looked semi-reliable, but that's as good as it gets. So I couldn't give him anything 5 or above. And
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Giving him any lower would have just been almost doing it to provoke, I suppose. But yeah, not a good season. Musacchio, I gave a 5. I have no idea how he made 17 league appearances.
I
he
think
made
5 is pretty generous.
It probably is because most of those starts came before the Christmas break, essentially, and that was the worst part of the season. The minute that he left the starting 11, things seemed to get better. However, again, I just remember him looking shaky and unspectacular rather than having loads and loads of mistakes in a row. I think he's just not quite up to speed. He'll leave this summer. I think he'll go back to Spain, and that's the best.
Do you remember how bad we wanted him, though?
Yeah, that was a long drawn out process. I don't think really we can say that we've got our investment back on him. He never properly got up to the, and then obviously had that injury this season when we really could have used him when the defence was in crisis and he was injured and Duarte was injured. So, yeah. Speaking of which, Duarte, this might actually be kind of generous as well. I gave a 5.5. We didn't see too much of him because of injuries and because he was lower down the pecking order. What we did see, I didn't think was terrible. You got to remember he got played at right back in one game as well.
How many games did he even play?
Not loads. I wouldn't be surprised if he left this summer either. I know it's only been a year.
I think he's going to be a depth player.
Yeah.
I don't have a rating for him, but just because he didn't make that big of an impression, I don't want to grade him low for that reason.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That's fair. Romagnoli, 6.5. This one caused a few stirs, people saying that it should have been above 7. I would say that, I don't want to call him a flat track bully because that sounds harsh, but Romagnoli can look absolutely unbeatable against teams that are below us in the table. But you got to remember he came unstuck against Inter twice. He came unstuck at Atalanta away. There were some bad displays in there from him.
I agree. You also have to look at what's happening around him now. Well, this can go both ways.
It's his responsibility to make sure that it's not affecting.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
he has to be able to control that defense.
Yeah, he's getting there. Now, I noticed that in the good run post-lockdown, he looked, up until he got his injury with 3 games to go, looked good. I thought he looked really good. He looked sharp again, like the break had done him good. We'll see. It's an important year next year for him, development-wise, because he's not the 22-year-old that we signed anymore. He's going to be 26 next season. So we need to start seeing him play like a 26-year-old captain, essentially. And I think we will get that renewal sorted. Simon Kier, 8.5. High rating.
High rating.
But can you think of where he put a foot wrong? Things seemed to go well when he came and when Ibra came. He is exactly the kind of partner we needed for Romagnoli. We've said it so many times. We need someone who's strong aerially, doesn't shy out of a tackle. He's deceptively fast as well as Kier.
How old is he?
31.
Oh, man.
So we got to, if he were 28 or something, I would be salivating right now. But we've probably got 2 or 3 years left of a player like Kier, which is all right if we bring in a centre-back of his mould to develop alongside him. And again, we'll come on to that. But yeah, I thought he was fantastic. Really good. Breath of fresh air.
I thought he was good. I don't think he deserves higher than Theo Hernandez.
Okay, yeah, right. So Theo, I gave an 8 to. Give him half a mark less because for the entire season up until the last few games, we were saying how much he struggles defensively. He's in the defenders category. So, the best parts about his season were at the attacking end.
Yeah,
so
yes, that's true.
I don't know. It's a tough one. I give him an 8. It's tough to find fault with his season, apart from a couple of mistakes that he made. And his positioning definitely improved towards those last few games. But what an inspired signing that looks like. Very happy with that. You could probably go a bit higher on that, to be fair. We'll quickly run through these. Laxalt only played 170 league minutes. I give him a 6 because it'd be harsh to gloss over that Atalanta performance, when the rest of the back four was in tatters. And he showed up with a really good game. So I give him a 6 for what we saw. Ricardo Rodriguez, 4.5. He started the season under Gianpaolo. And it was clear that he was being told to do something that he's not used to in particular, and he struggled. And pasture's new for him. I think he'll go back to Germany, which would be a good move for him. He's still got a few years left in him, definitely. And then Matteo Gabbia, 6.5. When he first came in, looked a bit shaky, looked young, looked naive, a bit inexperienced. When he first came in, he looked really good. That was when he got his chance because everyone else was injured. Then he got a bit more game time and he started to look, a bit shakier. And people were saying, we need to get this guy out on loan. But I think he ended the season with everyone else injured again really well. Really well. That Atalanta game was a big test of him, and he pulled through. And then the last 2 games, we were exceptional, and he didn't have much to do. But what he did well. And leadership qualities, again, nice to see him back in orders and stuff like that, and really taking control. 20 years old, 20 years old. It does bode well, does that. He's perhaps Kiem old. He might be a guy who could be stuck next to Romagnoli in time, but we'll see. Anyway, midfielders. Benacer, give it 8. We knew he was a good player when he arrived because of the AFCON thing, winning the player of the tournament. I think the reason that he didn't score higher is because he did struggle a bit at first. He was getting booked every game, basically. And he was sort of running around occasionally, looking a little bit like a headless chicken. Then just grew into his double pivot alongside Kessier really, really well. Really well. And he's just been fantastic. He's got his job. I think there was a Milan news feature yesterday that called him a washing machine. He just gets the ball and recycles it, and it's just a cycle of doing that. And it's tough to disagree with that. Then there's a bit of debate, I suppose, about what you give Kessier in comparison. I give Kessier an 8.5 because I think the way that he that second half of the season from him. Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, right, that's about right then. I was going to say I should have probably ranked them the same. Kessier struggled first half of the season, we know that, but his second half of the season was so good, and he covered the most ground in the entire team by far. We nailed down his role. He looked so good in that double pivot next to Benacer. They complemented each other perfectly. Both get 8s, both earned them.
Yeah, I think what helps Benacer get an 8 is he was kind of a gamble when we bought him because he was on relegated Empoli, and then we saw him get Afghan player of the tournament.
Afghan?
What'd I say? AFCON?
AFCON. There we go.
Oh. And how was he going to bring that into a new team, And the player's freaking amazing. For his height, just like commanding the midfield, great.
Yeah, tidy player. Very tidy player. I like him. Those two moving forward are going to be very good. Rade Krunic, it doesn't feel like we saw an awful lot of him. It's kind of like the Duarte thing. I feel a bit sorry for him. He arrived and just didn't get much game time. It's clear he was brought in for depth, but solid but unspectacular from what we saw of him. So that's why I give him a 6.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Paqueta, right. I give him a 4. And I put in the thing, it seems harsh to give him a 4. But there's various things that have got to be considered. He was tried in multiple different positions and it didn't seem to work. This is a player that cost us, when you look at salary as well, that will have paid out around about 45 million euros. You Bonaventura, who's leaving at the end of the season, he's now left. He was getting played over Paqueta, who, like I say, was an over 40 million euro investment. That can't happen. And that makes me question, is Paqueta's attitude wrong? Have other things been going wrong that just... He's going...
I just think he's not at home. And he seems like he's like a mental kind of player. Like he has to be in the right headspace,
He came exploded onto the scene playing a particular role in a midfield 3 where he was given a bit of license to go forward. I think that suited him well. But he's always been saying that his natural position's a number 10. And then when he got played as a number 10, he never looked good. And
even when he played under Gattuso in the 3-man midfield, he was still losing the ball. He just made up for it.
But because Bakayoko and Kessier were behind him, it didn't matter if he lost the ball.
Right.
Whereas, I don't know, when things weren't going well this season and we were looking for a bit of spark from the player that we paid a lot of money for spark and it didn't come, that was the start of the decline for him.
Yeah, and this team is so I can't if I'm gonna say this. Our team is pretty explosive on offense right now. Like we're just like banging goals in for fun the second half. And when you have a player like Paqueta who keeps on losing the ball in the midfield, and our defense and defensive midfielders have to recover, he's like an annoyance. He's like, all right,
He's the
get him
only
off the
one.
field. He's not.
He's the only one of all those players that we had that needed perhaps a bit of resurgence when Pioli came in. Teo Benacer, Rebic, all those guys. He's the only one who didn't, and that's tough to stomach really, because if he was on form and he was firing, he'd be perfect. He'd be absolutely perfect, and it just hasn't happened. I think he'll go somewhere. Hopefully in a swap deal, so his legacy could be giving us something really good in return. But I don't know. I think it's just not happened for him. It was probably a move too soon. I think in hindsight, maybe a stepping stone to sort of a Benfica or something like that would have been wiser. But it's what it is. Lucas Belia 2.
I
Two's
started
generous.
laughing when I read that.
2's generous. He would have definitely got a 0 if, let's say, he got sent off in a game or something. But yeah, not good. Just not a good season. He's gone. Basically, I said a non-existent contribution. We'll reflect on it as a bad investment when you look at the wages that he's on as well. Just, close the door. Hakan Çalhanoğlu gets a 7.5.
That's not fair.
Second half of the season, probably a 9. But up until then, absolutely not. I've done it on the balance of the whole season. And he was pretty bad up until, things turned upwards for us. Confidence player, you might say, as a result of that. But he's good. I mean, his stats before weren't great, but since lockdown, 6 goals, 8 assists, that gets him up to a 7.5. If he was to do that for the entire season, it'd be a 10.
Yeah.
It'd be a 9.5. It'd be something like that. Bonaventura, he's gone. We'll briefly touch on it. It was sad to see him in tears at the end of the game against Cagliari. Over half a decade he's been with us. It seems like time flies, really. But a good servant, I would say, more than anything. He's never once really been linked with a move elsewhere, even when he was doing so well for us. His contribution in terms of stats has been very good, and he stuck through the worst times.
He came in the worst times.
He did, yeah. And he's a very likable player, a really likable guy. And it is a shame, but it is the right time for him to move as well. He's the wrong side of 30 now, and he's not going to get an awful lot of game time with the way that our forwards are sort of stacked up at the moment. So it's a shame he didn't get a send-off in front of the fans, but once fans are back in the stadium and he comes back with Atalanta, Torino, whoever it may be, he'll get a reception then. But yeah, I'll fondly remember him without a doubt. And he got a 6.5. Tough one to judge him, really, because so many of his appearances were off the bench. But I remember when the results started picking up, he was the guy who was actually chipping in with goals and assists. And he did chip in with goals and assists. He was by definition a lot more productive than, say, a Paqueta. And yeah, he still does have an eye for goal, but he lost his pace, and I won't say he became a burden or anything like that, but just didn't see a spot for him anymore. And I think it's the right time for him to move on. But 6.5, because it wasn't a terrible season by any means. Brescianini got a not applicable because he didn't play enough, but he did get on in the game against Cagliari, which was nice. Looked all right. Seems like he always wants the ball, which is good. Bodes well when a young player comes in and demands the ball. So that was good to see. Anyway, forwards. Zlatan Ibrahimovic got the joint highest score for me. Got 8.5. I can't remember if I put this in the comment. No. Well, I said anyway that he was guilty of missing quite a few clear chances. I'll say that.
You put
but his impact was 50% his ability and 50% his mentality. And I think you need to factor that in massively. He raised the level of the team around him. He brought the arrogance, the leadership, the things that we were missing. The dickhead attitude, basically, that we were missing. And it was great to see him back in a Milan shirt. simple as that. And now he's going to be staying around for another year. It's great because the impact that he has on the dressing room, the impact that he has on his teammates when we're out there in the field, it is like having a manager out there on the pitch. And for that reason, for basically doing two jobs, I give him an 8.5.
Fair.
Yeah. Where are we now? Ante Rebic, 8. So first half of the season could have been a 2. But in the year of 2020, he's just been so good. He ended as our top scorer with 11 goals. But just his work rate, his knack of being in the right place at the right time, excellent. His second half of the season is probably a 10 out of 10, to be honest. Marginal mark off for the red card at Juve, because that kind of cost us in that. But yeah, the first half of the season, like I say, it could have been a 2 or something because we didn't see enough of him. But then he got his fair opportunity and he started to show us what he could do. But really encouraging end to the season from him. Looking forward to seeing him sign permanently, hopefully. Rafael, 7. Limited sample size, really. Didn't start many games, but when he did come on, we saw glimpses. We saw what he can do, and that was nice.
And he got better every game.
He did.
Very clearly, too.
He did, yeah. It's nice to have an option to be able to put him either up front or out wide. But yeah, I hope that this is the start of a really good Milan career for Rafael Leao. I've criticised him a lot this season, but it was in line with all these comments about his work rate and his work ethic not being particularly good. You don't know how true they are, whatever, but let's just say he's now starting to talk on the field as well. And it's nice to see someone with such raw ability playing for us, to be honest. Castillejo, I gave a 7 to as well. This was kind of relative because you've got to remember how bad we looked under Sousa. Sorry, when Sousa was starting on the right. And when Castillejo came into the team, it was like a breath of fresh air. To have someone quick, to have someone direct, to have somebody who their only thing wasn't to cut in onto the left foot and shoot way over the bar, So he gets, above the average mark, which would be a 6, let's say, for that. Would like to see a bit more, say, productivity, goals and assists and things. I think that might come if we don't sign another right wing. 7.5 for Salamakers.
I think it's a little high.
Perhaps generous. I'm not judging his ability as a footballer. We know there's a few things that factor into this score. We know that he's not Kylian Mbappe. We know that technically he's not the best winger. However, he gets such high marks for what he brings to the team in terms of balance. His work rate, the ground that he covers, the protection that he offers to a very vulnerable right side. And the fact that he chipped in with perhaps what we didn't expect in terms of key passes. He managed to get a nice goal too. He's not going to ever score over 10 goals a season. Watch me eat my words on that for next season. But he would cost 3.5 million euros. And he ended up establishing himself as a starter in the first team. So I think for that alone...
Due to injuries, though.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say he disgraced himself at any point.
Right, fair.
So
his first game was pretty awful. And then after that, it was like night and day difference.
I may be giving that a 7.5 out of 10 on the investment, overlooking the investment as a whole. Then the others, I didn't give a grade to Colombo or Daniel Maldini because we didn't see much of them, but it was nice to see Daniel Maldini get a run out against Cagliari. Felt a bit sorry for him because actually he didn't get to do much because it seemed like they were double teaming him, to be honest. But loan him out for next season, keep him around.
He's Maldini, he can't leave. Unless he's leaving for good. Yeah.
Or maybe he needs a full season with the Primavera just to take him up to 20 years old. And then we'll see where he's at. But yeah, they clearly have high hopes for him. And I like that. So a couple of players who left. I gave Suso a 4. That's not a reflection of his time at the club as a whole. It was just how sour things went before he left for Sevilla. Gianpaolo partly to blame for trying to play him centrally when it clearly wasn't going to work. Then when he did move out to his favoured right side, it didn't get any better. He seemed to have lost his crossing touch and seemed to have lost his deceptiveness. He was just getting sussed out every game. So, yeah, he left after a pretty poor half season. And Piontek gets a 3. He was even worse, perhaps the criticism couldn't have been his work rate in the early part of the season because he was working hard but just not getting any chances. And then he just seemed to look completely uninterested before January. I think because he knew he was going to be sold. So then he went and bad. Again, probably factor into that we paid 35 million euros for him. So it looks a bad investment, really. So yeah, player rating's done. Nothing that you massively disagree with there, which I'm surprised about. Next then, right. We'll do a proper Mercato special, but I feel it's right that we talk about it now while there aren't too many concrete rumours that are knocking about, because they will get more and more. You know, we might have signed a player by next week's episode or whatever. So I did a feature. It's under Devil's Advocate. Basically, 5 positions that we need to try and address this summer. 5 positions that we need to sign players in. Started with the obvious one, which is a right back. So we need a right back. The link at the moment is Serge Aurier from Spurs. I don't like it. I don't know about you. I don't like it.
I mean, I don't have an opinion on him.
Is it like trust Maldini? I guess, but I've had so many Spurs fans saying, take him, please take him. I'd take 1 million for him. You know, he's been rubbish. Blah. Mourinho seems to like him, and that's why he's getting games. And Zlatan knows him from his time at PSG. We ought to think, putting that in mind. And Ashley Young looked terrible in the Premier League before he left for Inter and scored 6 goals. So maybe for the right price, but it's like if we're going for a real upgrade at right back, I think there are better targets. I really do. More cost-effective targets that aren't on 4 million a year salary as well. So then the two targets I picked out, Emerson from Barcelona, but I think he's going to be too expensive. I don't think we can justify spending 30 million on a right back. The really obvious one for me is Dumfries of PSV. But a lot of people don't know much about him, but you know, he's their captain despite being 24. He's a real unit on the right side. He's actually good defensive.
6'2". Imagine having a 6'2" right back. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Well, if you think about how the balance of our team is, where when we're attacking, we sort of switch to a back 3, and the right back shifts over because Teo gets so far forward. Absolutely perfect for exactly that. But also Dumfries has scored. He's got goals and assists this season too, because I think defences can't cope when he bombs forward because he's such a size, you know.
Right.
He seems like under 20 mil, he's the perfect investment for me. I picked out a couple of options. It seems like we're going for a domestic option at the moment, which I kind of like. Milenkovic is the obvious one. He's the one who keeps getting linked every single day by every single newspaper out there. I like him for 2 reasons. One, Pioli knows him from Fiorentina. He worked with him at Fiorentina. And then the other one is his versatility. Can play in a back 3 or a back 4. Can play as a centre-back or a right-back. And maybe a third reason, his age as well. He's only 22. If we can get him in some kind of a swap. He's huge. He's a big guy. If we can get him in some kind of a favourable swap deal involving Paqueta, that would be great. Do that. But the other option that I picked out is one that's probably a bit cheaper. Marash Kumbula, who's at Hellas Verona. He's had a really, really good season. He's been linked with Lazio and Inter quite a lot. So, you know, this obviously calibre of player that they're going to be going for. I really think that we could get this one done, to be totally honest. Like,
Kumbala?
he looks good. He looks good. Again, young, so he would have to grow alongside Kier and Romagnoli for a while, but looks very good, knows the league well, would probably be half as cheap as Milenkovic, which is something to factor in. Similar mould of centre-back.
Yeah, he's only 20.
Yeah, he's a couple of years younger than Milenkovic.
Let's take them both.
Why not? If we sell both Musacchio and Duarte, then I think that could build us a very, very good defensive unit moving forward. So yeah, either of those. Defensive midfielder, I picked out 2 obvious ones: Sandro Tonali and Florentino Luis. I've forgotten the name. Florentino Luis is obviously the guy that we've been linked with for like a year now from Benfica. I would. And Sandro Tonali, everybody knows, is the Brescia kid. He seems to be close to Inter now, so it's what it is. Either are good because they're both young, so they wouldn't mind sitting out while Kessié and Benacer. I'm going to come on to him. while Benacer and Kessié do their thing, because they're young and they can develop and they get game time in the Europa League. I'm marginally leaning towards Florentino Luis because I think it'd be a more financially advantageous deal. We get him on a 2-year loan with an option or an obligation to buy.
I also feel like he's going to be better. I feel like
Tonali
has a lot of hype around him, but
very rough diamond,
Yeah.
very rough. And you can't go paying 35 million euros for someone that you're not going to start because you need to wait for them to develop. It's kind of a tough one. That being said,
he could not even develop.
I wouldn't
Tonali
be.
Could just
Now, so my argument to that is he will look better in a better team. Benacer did. He came here and looked better. Tonali would look better in our team. He just would. But
if Conte leaves Inter, is Tonali going to go there?
Don't think so. I wouldn't be annoyed if we signed him because obviously he's a boyhood Milan fan and it means he's chosen us over other clubs. I think you got to think objectively. I think Florentino would be a bit cheaper and maybe has a higher ceiling. Who knows? But Tonali's an Italy international already, so is what it is. I'd go for whichever's cheaper, basically. So I've put the fourth one as creative midfielder / winger. Now, the reason I didn't pick one or the other is because you've got to understand the three that play behind Zlatan shift around a lot. So you would say Çalhanoğlu's a central attacking midfielder. Well, you look up at one point, he's on the left side of the box. You look up then, he's on the right side of the box. So they shift around a bit. So I wouldn't be against signing someone who's a playmaker. I think we're only looking for a backup in that position, which is why I picked out Szoboszlai or Alexei Miranchuk. I think both would be a similar price, both naturally attacking midfielders. Sounds like we're still Dominic. Yeah, probably same. Sounds like we're still after him as well, even though the Ranić thing's fallen through, which is good.
And it sounds like he's still interested, even though Ranić has fallen through.
Well, I would be as well. We're still building an exciting project,
right.
I would say.
Well, we have been for the last 10 years.
Fair point. So then, if not that, right winger. Now, the guy I picked out was Memphis Depay because he's versatile. He can play anywhere along the forward line, gives goals and assists.
Yep.
Much more forward thinking than Salamanca's. So we'd have to shift things to make sure we don't get exposed down that right side. But he's just a baller and he's probably going to leave Lyon this summer. If they don't get Champions League.
I mean, he was at United and flopped, right?
Yeah, he struggled. He did struggle.
Yeah, I would.
I think Serie A would be his league. I think he'd do well. Yeah, he's quick. He's direct. He'd win us a lot of penalties. I've just got that feeling. To have him playing off Zlatan as well, making runs in behind, to have someone is going to finish them. Rebic, Çalhanoğlu, Depay behind Ibra it's frightening. But then also the thing that's come out a lot recently, I didn't put him in because I thought he was unrealistic. Federico Chiesa, Fiorentina guy.
I think he had one good season, and since then he has not been as impressive.
He's only 22, which people forget.
And that's
he's
what
been
I think
in the Italy
Tonelli
team
is
for
going to be too. I think he's going to. There's a lot of hype, and then he's just going to kind of fizzle out a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll see. I think next season's a big one for him, but I understand why Pioli wants him. Because it was under him that he had his really good season. Really knows how to play him in a 4-2-3-1 as well. I would only sign him if the demand was a lot lower than 60 mil.
Yeah, that's high for a player who's not producing a lot.
I think if he'd have ended the season really badly, then we might have been able to get him better. But then he scored a hat-trick in the second last game of the season. It's like,
I'll say he scored 6 goals out of 30 games.
Yeah, it's not great. He always seems to look good against us, though. But yeah, right wing seems to be a spot that we're focusing on. Anyway, centre forward is the last section, and I've gone back here to Dusan Vlahovic, back to Fiorentina for this guy. Now, I understand if people don't know too much about him because it's kind of his breakthrough season. He's not started loads and loads of games, but he's looked good in the ones that he has, albeit a bit inconsistent. I mean, he's 20 years old. It's like when Cutrone first came through, I suppose. But picked him out because he seems to me to be... I spent a good hour researching a future idea of what to do after Zlatan. It was going to be great. It was going to be like a nuclear wasteland in the background, and then Zlatan stood there, like life after Zlatan. And I was going to pick out a few players that are of a similar mold to him, who were physical, who are leaders, who can score with boot or with their head, who have a 360-degree range of passing, who will drop deep to contribute, who can pick out anyone else on the pitch with a ball, And I realised there isn't anyone that can do it. After an hour, I realised there is nobody who is as good at... Zlatan is good at everything, He could play anywhere on the pitch. It's kind of scary when you watch him and watch what he does. So, yeah, I looked into it. The closest that I got was Vlahovic, and people might laugh at that, but just in the way that they play. They're both big physical target men, but they both drop and they're quite tidy with the ball at their feet, and they're kind of a threat from everywhere, and they know how to bring in the wingers and stuff. So there's something in there, and to bring him in and let him grow under Zlatan for 1 or 2 years would be good. I think would be good. And then finally, the other two forwards that I picked out, Luka Jovic, obvious reasons, seems to be the best striker actively available this summer. And the temptation to pair him with Rebic again is big. It's them two were frightening together. And I think it'd be good. And we've got to think about, after Zlatan, what happens. If we're going to stick with this counter-attacking style, it might be better to have a small, fast forward who finishes everything that's put in front of him. And then Duvan Zapata was the guy who I picked out. I don't think we have much chance of signing him. He's obviously like Atalanta's main guy. And he's a bit older. He's like 29, but he's a real double threat. He's fast, good finisher, but also very physical and very good in the air. He's a perfect all-round centre forward. If there's any chance of getting someone like that in, he could make a huge difference to us.
I agree.
Difference. He's off to Juve by the sounds of it, which says a lot. They're going after
28, 29. Yeah. So, if we signed him, he wouldn't be a permanent fix. He would be,
But you might ease the transition to a permanent fix, which is probably the best we're going to do. Because, like I said, I looked around, nobody comes close to what Ibra does. So there's no point trying to replicate it.
I mean, he's going to be a fix until Maldini's banging in goals.
Yeah, or Colombo Maldini up front.
Right.
I want Colombo to do really well, by the way. I like the kid. So that's that. Fun games. That was just before the storm really starts and we get seriously linked with players. That was just a bit of fun. Kalulu's here, by the way. He's signed. He's the right back that you didn't know about. He signed from Lyon. He never played a senior game from...
That happened so long ago, though.
Yeah, it did, to be fair. Signed a 5-year deal from Lyon, who hadn't offered him under the contract. Or rather, he'd chosen us. Lyon seemed gutted to lose him, and apparently he's been really good in the UEFA Youth League. So we'll wait and see. I think pre-season will be a good indicator of where he's at and whether he can be back up or whether he plays in the youth team for a year. We'll see. Right, I've got some questions then. Just to end the episode, conscious of time and all that. Comes from I Love Kyrie. I think it's Kyrie, it could be Chieri. Is Maldini drunk off wine for wanting to sign Aurier because he's been shit for PSG and at Spurs he doesn't improve their right back position?
If he's drunk off wine, I want to join him because he was drunk off wine when he signed Theo. So
that's true. That's one thing I will say is that his record's been pretty good signing fullbacks so far. And I do trust him, but this is one of those where I'm like, really, that's the guy? All right, It's tough to get behind because he's a liability, really. Aurier has been this season for Spurs. He's been a liability. I think there are better targets out there. But if that's the guy we really want and Pioli approves, fine, do it, whatever. So this comes from Mark S. at Vango89. Why aren't we going after Everton Suarez? Benfica are about to snag him for 20 mil. No, we were linked with this guy for ages.
Yeah, I just think that was more when we were trying to go down that Brazil path with Paqueta and then sign him. But I think Paqueta's leaving and we're going down a different path.
Yeah, it becomes very hard to justify spending over 20 mil on another Brazilian player when Paqueta's turned out the way that he has. No disrespect to him, but it hasn't been a good investment. And also, I think the left side's sorted. Everton plays as a left winger. You're going to tell Rebic that he's going to take the bench because we've signed a kid from Brazil. We've got other priorities. I think that's why. And I think Benfica, by the way, is a really good move for him. It's a good taster to get into European football. A lot of Brazilian kids land in Portugal and end up developing into something quite special. So we'll see. I hope he does well there. Anyway, Vito Bahamale says, if Milan get Bakayoko, do you think we'll switch back to a midfield 3 or still use 2?
I think we have to use 2 because our offense is so productive.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to play, assuming we get to the Europa League groups, we're going to play over 50 games next season. We need at least 3 quality midfielders.
And Kessié is going to have at least 3 months of bad play. Let's be honest.
He might do. It would just be nice to have a quality option to bring in.
Right.
Bakayoko, he's just the ideal guy, Sound, covers so much ground, very, very sound defensively, physical. He's the ideal guy. I don't think we'd switch to a midfield 3 and play all of Benacer, Kessié and Bakayoko.
Right.
If there'd just be nothing going forward then. But yeah, I think we stick with the 2 and have the depth. Longo Milanista asks a few quick fire questions. So this came out from Don Ballon, and then it got picked up on by Sport Media Set, and then it got picked up on by another Spanish thing. A Jovic-Leao swap, because Real Madrid apparently like Leao.
No.
I think the answer's no as well. We want to keep Leao. They want to get rid of Jovic. So why would we... Right. That says everything. I say no. I think if we're going to acquire Jovic, it needs to be on good terms as well. Maybe a year loan, 2-year loan with an option to buy, just to protect ourselves. Deulofeu as a backup winger. You like him, don't you? I like him. I liked him under Montella. I thought he was a very good player. Yeah, he likes... It says here on a free transfer, we know he's not going to be a free transfer because Watford have gone down and they're going to try and get a bit of money for him. If he were a free transfer, I'd have him all day as long as he didn't mind being a backup. But I wouldn't pay anything over 10 mil for him, to be totally honest with you. And again, I think we have other objectives. I think we're looking more on the right side. Chiesa is right.
Need depth for that position,
Yeah, we are. Then it's like the argument is perhaps sign Deulofeu, 28-year-old winger, and we pay money for him. Then Daniel Maldini's going to be pretty pissed off about that because he would have fancied some game time next season, I don't know. If the price was right, I'd definitely consider it. Chiesa for the right wing, we kind of talked about. This is a dream. Tonali Bakayoko as the backup pairing to Kessié Benacer. There's no way it happens, I don't think.
No, and I don't think that Bakayoko will be back up to Kessié at all. I think Kessié will be back up to Bakayoko. He's so much better than Kessié. So much better.
You think?
Oh, yeah.
I think Kessié's end to the season makes me think otherwise, but more consistent, definitely. But apparently Bakayoko hasn't had a great season at Monaco.
Yeah, but he had a great season with us. So.
Yeah, he did. Again, I'd do the Bakayoko thing if the price was right. We've got to wait until near the end of the window when they're going to sell him off for 15 million euros. It's like, he wants to come back. We know he wants to come back. So we can play that to our advantage. We'll see. Finally, a bit of fun. Michael Golisano, welcome to Crazy Season. It is Crazy Season. With all the names we're being linked to, you can only sign one. Who is it?
What's his name? God damn it.
I'm
the kid from Portugal.
Oh, Florentino Luis.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard because we need a few signings. I think the thing that we most desperately need at this point in time is a right back. So I'm going to say Denzel Dumfries. I'm going to say that. But realistically, if Chiesa was the first player that we went out and got because we really wanted a right wing upgrade, I wouldn't be totally against it. I think by the sounds of it, 5 players at least are going to arrive because we need a bit of depth and a bit of cover in all areas. We need a couple of new stars. We'll see. Yeah, that's it. I don't really have much else to add, mate. I think we're over an hour, which is...
Yeah, let's get back to work, man.
taking a lunch off to speak to me. I feel a bit sorry for you. Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. We don't have any football to talk about. There's no games to preview or anything. So I guess really it's just going to be what transfer rumours. We'll do a few ideas thrown in to keep things fresh and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully have a couple of guests on. And yeah, just watch out on social media for the giveaway that will come. In the meantime, I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. Once again, you can find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher or at Kilpin Chronicle for some more explicit Milan-based rants. I've been joined by Madison.
Yeah, at Madison _ no, I changed my Twitter. At Edward __ Toth.
Wow. So that's why you should have said you. Yeah. Well, good stuff.
Yeah, I tweet too much
Is that your
political
middle
stuff.
name?
So, yes.
That makes sense.
I don't want customers searching my name on and finding my Twitter and like calling Trump a dumbass or something.
Yeah, fair. That's a good way to end the video, actually. Yeah, thank you very much for listening, everybody. We'll catch you in a week's time.
Conti, bella palla per Rebic, Ibra, Rebic, il tiro, gol!